Mr. Hearing Officer, we have a video of regarding Shasta College and what they had to do with equipment because of the regulation. We were planning on this as a live witness, but Scott had to be away for this weekend, so we'll play the video and I'll offer it as Exhibit 6.
Yes, I'll be fine.
Go ahead, Robert.
Would you state your name for me, please, and tell me what your position is?
Scott Swendeman, and I'm on the Board of Trustees at the Shasta Community College.
And tell me about the community college, how it's funded, and what part of the educational system in California it's in.
It's part of the California Community College system, which is 113 different campuses, partly funded by the state, partly funded by local taxes.
It's in Redding?
It's in Redding. It's also in Trinity County. We have a campus there. We also have a campus in Tehama County.
Okay. And what's the enrollment?
In total, it's about 10,000 students.
Okay. You don't happen to have any idea of what your overall budget is? I didn't ask you that.
Yeah, it's about $50 million.
Okay, for all three of the schools?
For all three, yeah.
We're talking today about the rule on diesel exhausts that has been issued by the California Air Resources Board. And that rule has had impact on the school. I'd like you to tell me about that, if you would.
The heavy equipment program is one of our most successful programs. So we have a lot of equipment there. They came down with the edict that all of that equipment must go because of the carbon footprint created by the diesel particulate matter. So they imposed that we were to destroy all of what we had. And as you can see, would you like me to list what is there?
If you read what it has, and we've got this, we've got a very good chart, a very self-explanatory chart to go with the video. But if you would, for the viewers who don't see the chart, tell me what's on there.
What happened was the demand was that we destroy all of the equipment that we had that led to the California diesel particulate matter. The equipment that was destroyed was one John Deere 544 wheel loader, one John Deere 672 motor grader, one Caterpillar D5 bulldozer, one John Deere 310 backhoe, and a Bobcat 257 skid steer loader. All of this equipment was destroyed by taking a torch and blowing holes through the engines to incapacitate them forever, and then all of it was salvaged at local steel salvage yard.
What kind of repair was that equipment in?
All of that equipment was in excellent repair. In addition to our heavy equipment teaching side, we have a heavy equipment mechanic side. So you've got the operator side and the mechanic side. All of this stuff was in literally perfect equipment. There was no debt on any of it. We'd owned it for a long time.
And tell me how how is this equipment used exactly with the school and the school?
It was used in the training process for the operators and for the mechanical.
And where did that training process take place?
On the campus at Shasta College.
So none of this was equipment that rolled over the roads or was hired out into jobs throughout California at all?
None of it. We have equipment that separately we leased out to Cal Fire, but this was just part of the educational program.
Part of the campus?
Part of the campus, yeah. Very, very rarely, if you're talking about hours of use, right. Running very, very rarely.
And so basically they were not contributing these particulates, whatever amount, on a 24/7 basis either?
No.
And they were all decommissioned and all gone to scrap?
That's correct.
How did you replace it? Did you replace it? I mean, are you still in the business of heavy equipment training?
We were forced to replace it with 3 Komatsu machines. One was a 200 wheel loader. The second was a 655 motor grader. The third was a D61 bulldozer, and then we bought a John Deere 31OJ backhoe and a Bobcat 130 skid steer loader, and that was all grant funded.
Grants from
the Air Resources Board,
from state of California.
From state of California, which I think, you know, portions of that money came from the feds.
And how much was the grant?
The grant in total was $504,000. In addition, Shasta College had matching funds of $168,000. There was a $5,800 salvage credit for the destruction of the equipment. And then 5 local excavation contractors stepped in and posted donations in the amount of $66,000 to offset the matching funds for Shasta College, and that led to Shasta College's contribution being $96,000.
And I imagine those companies stepped in to help because they benefit from the training that you give.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in effect, the state of California through CARB took $100,000 out of the funds that you could have used for educational purposes or compliance with some of the other special laws that the state has imposed.
That's correct, or maintenance, or you know, any of the other issues such as the ADA issues. These monies could have been used.
And in fact, they used $504,000 public dollars to replace 5 perfectly good pieces of heavy equipment.
Correct.
I'd like to ask if you obviously are very interested in the educational system to serve on a board like you're on, because it's not easy, especially with community colleges. With the type of needs that you have and have to meet with the dollar problems that California faces in all other states, what could you have done with that $500,000? Just tell me some of the things that you, as a member of the board, had you had that $500,000 for educational purposes, what could you have done at the school that you're not doing now?
Well, that could have funded 2 adjunct positions, teaching positions, certainly. Could have funded any portion of our ADA requirement. We have ongoing maintenance projects out there. Right now we are finishing the looping of our water system, so we have water pressure enough to fight a fire in the event of a fire. Any number of things, you know, would have readily accepted a $100,000 boost.
As a member of the community college system too, you're really part of the state government. In an adjunct position, but you're part of the state government.
Yes.
Did CARB ever come and talk to the board of the school about the reasonably of a rule that would require this?
No, they did not. This came down somewhat quietly, and there we stood with either complying or being out of compliance.
Did they tell you what would happen if you didn't comply?
It would have increased our carbon footprint, and we would have been subject to penalties associated with that.
And fines? And fines. Did they ever, how did you find out about it? When was what was the first notice you got that you were going to have to decommission this equipment?
The first time we saw it was at a board meeting. And there are several of us on the board who are involved in private industry. One of the board members is the vice president of C.A.R.B Pacific Industries. One of them is a olive and fig farmer. One is a retired city attorney. All of us said, "What is this?" And we were told that there's no say in the matter. If you want to object, go ahead, but here's what we face if we object. And it was one of those things that was clearly easier to accept than to fight.
Do you have any idea how many other community colleges face this same result?
I don't know how many heavy equipment programs there are, so I can't comment.
But any heavy equipment program, any part of the university system or college system would have had to do the same.
Yes.
Have you read any of the research about what kind of impact on climate warming these increasing junkyards has?
I have read it, but I don't specifically remember the numbers. It's laughable.
They didn't bother to tell you how this balanced out in any way, I take it.
Right. I don't think they think that far ahead.
Getting to and this is serious. There's no question about it because of educational funding. But getting down to the human side now of the impact of this rule. The rule that impacted the school is going to impact the community and members of the community. What do you see as being the impact on the school of the economic impact on truckers and people relying on truckers in the community?
It's one more nail in the coffin. They'll get away with this aspect of it. It'll be one more stepping stone for them. Obviously, they're going after the truckers at this point. They're not going to stop. I was with a friend that has a lot of equipment on a ranch last weekend, and he's so far from the grid that he had no idea of what was coming. I said, Chuck, you're next. He said, what do you mean I'm next? I said, they're going to come after your equipment. And a guy like Chuck has no ability to survive that. Right. So it's a snowball effect.
And we've talked with other people who are in the trucking business, small trucking businesses as well as large. And each one of the smaller ones will not be able to survive this for various reasons. Not just the cost, but for various reasons. And each of their employees are family people. That's going to mean an impact on every business in the community. And when that impact is felt on the business in the community, how's that impact going to relate then to the school and the enrollment?
We've been through this before. When the spotted owl issue came down and pretty much shut down logging in Shasta County, I've been here for 60 years. Shasta County was a land of very, very proud men who worked in the timber industry, supported their families well, who were suddenly denied the opportunity to work, and it was suggested, you know, casually that they just needed to retrain themselves in the clean air industry. Well, you know, that is so far from being something that those men could accomplish. These men lost their jobs, led to them losing their pride. You know, their families suffered. We have a great unemployment problem here. Those mills were the greatest thing in the world. We had a 50 million board feet sustainable yield in the Shasta Trinity alone. It was never going to change. All of that went away. These forests are choked. Everything's going to burn without question. And that's the impact that this will continue to have. These are men that have worked day and night to make it work so they can support their families. And here they sit absolutely disillusioned as to what the hell happened. This is suddenly my government sneaking up on me and sideswiping me for no good reason.
I talked with someone the other day about this particular problem, and he's been through the same problem, a similar problem in the sage grouse of the Intermountain West. And he said it's kind of funny that they're using an automotive part this time instead of the spotted owl or the sage grouse. And that rang true with me, that it's another part of the rural community that's getting hit now. all in the names of sustainability, when in fact what we've found is there's nothing sustainable about what happened to the forests. There's nothing sustainable about what's happening to the grazing that's being removed from the lands. In fact, the land becomes non-sustainable.
Correct. Since 1980, we've had 1 million acres burn in the national forest alone, and that's when all of the spotted owl craziness started.
And we, in a hearing like the one we're having here, in a hearing in Wisconsin, we received proof that in the one forest fire in the state of Idaho 3 years ago created more carbon emissions than all the man-made emissions in the state throughout an entire year. There doesn't seem to be any discussion of the balance of all these things.
Yeah, it is clear if you step back and take a look that Mother Nature holds the trump card. She does everything that happens. She'll burn it, she'll flood it, she'll blow it down. It's up to her. The humans have just a minority, just a minimal impact on what happens to the landscape. She's the one that does it, and then she's the one that rebuilds it. The humans get blamed for it, but looking at the big picture, humans are just scratching the surface.